Let me guess, you've been told that to build discipline, you just have to force it, right? Grind it out with sheer willpower. You set that 5 a.m. alarm, you make the perfect to-do list, and you swear to yourself, this time it's different. But a week later, you're back to your old habits, feeling totally exhausted and defeated. What if I told you the problem isn't your lack of willpower? What if the very act of forcing it is precisely why you're failing? In this video, I'm going to share a powerful approach to discipline that has nothing to do with trying harder. It's about a deep psychological shift that can make doing the hard things feel easier and more natural. And once you get this, you'll never look at discipline the same way again. All right, first things first, let's bust a myth that's caused so much frustration, the myth of willpower. We've been taught to see discipline as a war, you versus your impulses, with willpower as your trusty sword. But here's a truth that people who are great at self-control understand. Relying on willpower alone is a burnout strategy. Early ideas suggested willpower was like a muscle that gets tired with overuse. The latest science is more nuanced, showing that things like your motivation and even your belief in your own willpower play a huge role. But the core lesson stands. If you're just forcing yourself to resist the cookie, to finish the report, and to skip the snooze button, you're draining your mental energy. Eventually, you run out. And what happens then? You cave. And then comes the guilt. You start thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be more disciplined? This kicks off a vicious cycle of trying harder, failing, and feeling like you're fundamentally lazy or broken. But a lack of discipline isn't a character flaw. It's a sign that your strategy is flawed. The problem isn't you, it's your playbook. So if willpower isn't the whole answer, what is? It's not a new app, a planner, or some fancy productivity hack. It's a deep internal change. One of the most powerful secrets to lasting discipline is an identity shift. Because true sustainable discipline doesn't come from forcing new actions. It comes from becoming a new person. Think about it this way. Most people start by focusing on an outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. A better way is to focus on the process. I'll go to the gym 3 times a week. That's an improvement, but it can still feel like a chore. But the most powerful level of change, the one that makes discipline feel more automatic, is changing your identity. It's the difference between saying, I'm trying to eat healthy, and knowing I am a healthy person. It's moving from I have to go for a run to I am a runner. When you believe an action is a reflection of who you are, the internal debate just quiets down. This idea, popularized by James Clear in Atomic Habits, is that every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you make your bed, you cast a vote for being an organized person. When you read one page, you cast a vote for being a reader. These actions seem small, but they're pieces of evidence you're providing to your own brain. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner. Once you truly believe you're a runner, the running gets a whole lot easier. For this identity shift to really stick, we have to tackle the psychology of why we resist discipline in the first place. For so many of us, discipline feels like punishment. It sounds like restriction, deprivation, and forcing yourself to do things you hate. And honestly, that exactly framing is why it fails. Your brain is wired to avoid pain, so if discipline feels like a penalty, of course you're going to rebel against it. But here's a reframe that changes everything. Discipline isn't self-punishment. It's one of the highest forms of self-respect. It's about caring for your future self. When you choose to exercise, you're loving your future self enough to give them the gift of health. When you save money, you're loving your future self enough to give them financial freedom. You're choosing a minor discomfort now to spare the person you'll be tomorrow from a much bigger pain later. That isn't harsh, it's compassionate. There's also a fascinating psychological tool working in your favor here. Cognitive dissonance. Your mind craves consistency. It gets uncomfortable when your actions don't match your beliefs. So if you start telling yourself, I'm the type of person who finishes what they start, your brain will start looking for ways to close that gap. It creates an internal nudge to complete tasks just to align your behavior with your identity. You stop negotiating with yourself. The question is no longer, should I do this? It becomes, is this what a person like me does? This all sounds great, but how do you actually become this new identity? You don't just wake up with a new idea. You build it, vote by tiny vote, and you cast those votes using incredibly small actions. The best way to start is with the 2-minute rule. You shrink any new habit down to a version that's so easy it's almost impossible to say no. Read every day becomes read one page. Go for a run becomes put on my running shoes. Meditate for 20 minutes becomes sit quietly for 2 minutes. The point isn't the 2 minutes. The point is to show up. It's about casting that first ridiculously easy vote for your new identity. Anyone can read one page. By making it stupid small, you bypass the brain's initial resistance and prove to yourself that you can be consistent. These small wins build the confidence and evidence you need. Next, you have to become an architect of your environment. People with great self-discipline aren't necessarily superheroes of willpower. A huge part of their secret is that they structure their lives to avoid needing it. They reduce the friction for good habits and increase it for bad ones. Want to drink more water? Put a bottle on your desk. Want to stop scrolling in the morning? Leave your phone in another room. Make your environment a silent partner that nudges you toward the actions that support your new identity. This is where it all clicks. Effortless discipline isn't just a mindset hack, and it isn't just about building habits. It's the powerful combination of the two. Your habits are the engine. They are the physical, automatic actions that cast the votes for your identity day after day. Without habits, a new identity is just wishful thinking. You can tell yourself you're a writer, but if you never actually write, that identity will starve. Your identity is the steering wheel. It's the deep internal belief system that keeps you going for the long haul, especially on those days when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's the why that fuels the what. When you inevitably have a bad day, your identity as someone who shows up is what pulls you through. It reframes a lapse not as a failure, but as a simple detour from who you are, making it infinitely easier to get back on track. When your external actions, your habits, are aligned with your internal beliefs, your identity, the constant struggle begins to fade. The battle doesn't just get easier, the battle itself starts to disappear. So, how do you start this today? Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. It begins with one small, intentional choice. Here's your plan. First, pick one single area. Don't try to overhaul your entire life at once. Is it exercise, procrastination, diet? Just pick one. Second, apply the 2-minute rule. Make the requirement laughably small. If it's exercise, your new habit is to do one push-up. If it's writing, your goal is to write one sentence. The only goal is to show up. Third, design your environment for that one habit. Where and when will you do your one push-up? Maybe right after you get out of bed. If you're writing one sentence, leave a document open on your computer so it's the first thing you see. Make it obvious. Fourth, as you do the tiny action, connect it to your identity. Don't just do the push-up. As you do it, tell yourself, I'm the type of person who takes care of their body. Don't just write the sentence. Tell yourself, I am a writer. Anchor the action to the identity. Finally, get a calendar and mark an X on every day you complete your tiny habit. This isn't about judgment. It's about collecting evidence. Every X is another vote, another piece of proof that you are becoming that person. Watching the chain of X's grow is one of the most powerful motivators there is. For years, you've been sold the idea that discipline has to be a miserable grind, but the secret isn't about forcing yourself to act, it's about becoming the person who finds it natural to act. It's not about punishment, it's about self-respect. And it's not about huge, heroic efforts. It's about tiny, consistent votes that build a new you over time. Stop trying to white-knuckle your way to a better life. Instead, start asking a new question. Who do I want to become? And then take one tiny step today to cast a vote for that person. Because real, lasting change doesn't happen when you just try harder. It happens when you become someone new. If this idea of building a better life by shifting your identity resonates with you, make sure to subscribe for more strategies on achieving your goals without the burnout. Thanks for watching.